Welcome to YGTV and YG Workshop, presented by First Federal Bank and sponsored by Circle Electric and Health Payment Systems. I'm your host, David Belman, president of Belman Homes. YG Workshop is a collaborative environment designed to help businesses see their blind spots and consider new perspectives. Our panel of experts work together to share knowledge and tailor advice to help an entrepreneur achieve business goals. Today, the team and I are helping Taren Sartler, founder of Tock, It's About Time. Let's meet the panel.
I'm Lori Highby, CEO and founder of KEYSTONE. We are a strategic digital marketing agency.
I'm Ariel Kopac, founder and owner of Harness Your Hindrance, serving business owners and sales professionals with mindset business coaching.
I'm Mervyn Byrd. I'm a VISTAGE chair and executive coach.
I'm David Belman, president of Belman Homes and one of the founders of the Young Guns movement.
Welcome to First Federal Bank of Wisconsin. Here at the bank, we pride ourselves on providing the community bank difference. To us, it's more than a tagline, it's how we serve our customers and support our communities. When you work with us, you can expect quick local decision making, a great customer experience, and a significant community commitment. As experts in the products and services we provide, we are here to help you achieve your financial goals. Proudly serving the Milwaukee metropolitan area since 1922, we look forward to serving you and showing you what the community bank difference is all about.
Circle Electric is a 35-year commercial, industrial, and healthcare electrical contractor with engineers and designers on staff, backed by the most technical and well-trained master and journeyman electricians. Whether it's an equipment move, new building, or commercial remodel, from pre-construction all the way through startup, primary power, branch power, or low voltage systems, they are here to support you. Our 24/7 on-call service department is here to meet your electrical needs for our industrial and healthcare customers. You always hear safety first. They are safety always. Circle Electric will maintain electrical reliability for business continuity.
For more than 80% of families, today's medical billing practices are confusing. At HPS, our goal is to improve the healthcare experience for the patient by making medical bill payments less stressful. In Wisconsin, that's all made possible by our comprehensive independent healthcare provider network. We simplify billing and lower costs for everyone involved in healthcare and offer various ways for individuals to pay without breaking the bank.
Welcome to YG Workshop. Today we are joined by Taren Sartler of Tock, It's About Time. Welcome to YG Workshop, Taren. How are you?
I'm doing really well, David. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
It's our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your company, how it came about, and what exactly you do.
Sure. So Tock, It's About Time, came about in 2019 when I was actually working with an executive coach to level up another business that I own. And in that, this concept of time management, disciplines, habits, right, kept coming up in a way that I kept gifting that information to people in the networking world. What is the most common complaint you hear sometimes when you're out networking, dealing with entrepreneurs and salespeople? There's not enough time in the day, right? I can't be efficient and get it all done. And so what she encouraged me to do was start a business. I had a viable solution to a very common problem in the marketplace, so I did. I dove in head first. I wrote a business plan. The business has changed very, very differently from then. But what essentially I do is I help now specifically female financial advisors figure out how to stop working 80 hours a week just to avoid working 40 for somebody else, right? How to actually drive their business like a business. They have a career, but they were never taught to actually be in business. And so I come in and help them with habits, mindset, disciplines, all focused around how they manage themselves and the time that they have.
Okay, that's an excellent business model. So Obviously, you've got kind of a general idea of the business, but I know you're having some questions and challenges about it. And so I would love to hear what your biggest and most pressing problem is.
Sure. So I would say twofold in a sense, but it all comes down to marketing and where I go next. I believe it's a great business model. It's repeatable, and if it's repeatable, it can be scaled. And from both a revenue standpoint and then being able to service more people, I would like to scale it as such, but I have different ideas of where I could go next, and because of that, I feel frozen.
Okay, so just to kind of clarify, you said you have a couple different potential visions for the business, and you want some maybe direction from us on where that could go.
Please, yeah.
With keeping in mind that you want it to be scalable.
Correct.
Is that right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you nailed it.
Okay, great. We've got that. So we're going to dive into that in just a sec, but before we do, we've got to understand your business a little bit more, so we're going to start asking you some questions.
Fire away.
Who's got a question for Taren to start with?
I think the captain should go first.
Oh, I like it. All right, Captain.
Well, you brought this on yourself, Lori, so.
Are you a self-designated captain?
Yeah, I'm self-designated captain. So, so Taren, give us an idea. What are the different aspects of the business, and
Sure.
What are some of the specifics and more granular details?
Sure. So there are a handful of pieces, and I'm assuming you mean like how I work with my clients and what generates revenue. Just to clarify. Okay, so I do host workshops, both for the public as well as individually for privately held teams and associations. That's the Take Back Your Time workshop. It's interactive, it's a format, it works really well, and that not only is it a great way for me to feed new clientele, but it's giving away as much information as I can in a short amount of time so that they can walk away and feel like they have something useful to get more efficient the moment that they leave. So I try to touch on everybody's struggles within that workshop. Then realizing that sometimes people fall apart in the implementation stage. Some people want more hand-holding. So I will go in and consult with their business or their team to help figure out how they can drive more revenue and find more personal time by being more on purpose with their time. Then I also host an annual conference, the Power of Purpose Conference. It's a conference by women for women in the financial services space.
Excellent. Okay. Good question. Anyone else have questions?
I'm curious, you said that you have a few different ideas as far as where to take it.
Yes.
And what are the ideas that you have explored or considering at this time?
Sure, great question. So a couple of ways that I see the business going, and perhaps they all come together in the end. It's which way to go first. One is the idea of building a certificate program to teach other consultants to do what I do and have more feet on the ground, right? That's one concept, whether it's a franchise where they're buying in and taking that into their own territories, or they become employees as consultants of the company itself. But that would be a more detailed conversation if that was one way. Another way is, as I work with these women, I find often that their challenges and problems are very much the same. So could I take one or two of their most common problems and build an offshoot of the company to solve that problem for them as a add-on service, right? Those are probably the primary two ways that I would take it.
Could you give a little bit more example on that? I'm
Sure.
What problem solving are you
Sure.
referring
So
to?
typically what it is they either need help marketing, and not just strategy, but the implementation. And I have a strong marketing team. Do I build that and work or hire a strategist and then help with content creation for that small entrepreneur, because they don't necessarily have the budget of a larger organization to make that happen? That's one area. The other area is I would call it the virtual assistant space, hiring a team that way to take. A lot of these women are afraid to hire their first staff. And the numbers don't lie. You hire somebody and delegate so much of that $15 to $20 an hour work, you will make more money. But when you're fearful of doing that, giving them an outlet to outsource some of it as they grow and become confident could be a great way to build as well. At least I think so.
No, that's great. I'm curious, so you just said the words like at the end game. So what is it? What are you trying to achieve at the end of the day?
Scaling to sell. And not that I intend to leave anytime soon, but I believe all business owners should have an exit strategy, and that exit strategy should be valued with all of the time and effort you've put in along the way.
Do you have a time window you're trying to achieve this goal in?
I don't see myself slowing down. I'll probably never retire. I don't know how to sit still, but I will probably start slowing down in about 10 years at 55.
So I'm curious of your options that you have, which one is going to be the most efficient path or the path that you're going to enjoy the most?
Excellent question. I don't know. I would love to
She's
answer.
deflecting right there. I love it.
I would love to answer that for you, but I think that's where I'm stuck.
Okay.
This is what happens when you coach a coach.
I'll try to stop
You get
it.
the honest answer of, I don't know.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then you going back with, well, if you did know,
Yeah, right.
what would right?
My question for you is, what do you think is holding you back? Because I know you had said at the beginning you're kind of not sure which direction to go. So what do you think is holding you back?
Ooh, that is a really good question, and I won't say I don't know. I would, if I actually reflect, if I looked inside and I were honest with you, I would say it's just not taking the time to build clarity around either. I have both ideas on paper, but truthfully, if I sat down and wrote the go-to-market strategy, wrote the business plan, either way and compared, I would either find one probably would give me more energy, right? Which one would I enjoy doing more? And I would find which one would be more efficient and probably from a revenue standpoint as well as time and marketing.
Okay.
Did I answer my own question?
Yeah, no, that's good.
So thinking about what you said, building a business to scale and to sell
Yes.
ultimately at some point.
Yes.
I can't believe this hasn't come up yet. That someone hasn't said this, and I've got to be the one to say this.
Captain?
Why just women?
Why just? So it's like having a target market or a niche, right? I do work with males as well. My marketing, my focus is female financial advisors, and there's a very specific reason for that. But I've worked with males, I've worked with other entrepreneurs, I've worked with people in other industries, and I will continue to. That's just where my focus is.
So with the business, if one of the things you mentioned, franchising, so there'll be opportunities. So if, let's just say that David wanted to,
Sure.
get in on your franchise, does he have the flexibility to say, well, gee, I want to work with male home builders?
Yes, and that's the beauty of a franchise, right? The marketing is consistent, but the owner could pick a different target market. I guess I'll take it a step back and explain more from an emotional standpoint why it's female financial advisors. It's a tough industry either way, men and women. The attrition rate is very, very low in the first 1 year, not to mention 3 and 5 years in, and they need all the support they can get, but the females are often the ones that are running the family calendar, at home, as well as the business calendar. And it's still a very, very male-driven industry. And as I started to work with some of these financial advisors, I realized it's also a very underserved industry. And so some of the coaching they've received throughout their tenure, trying to build a business is, how do you prospect? The standing response is, go see the people. That's not okay. That's not good advice, right? And then when you talk to some of the women that have been around for a while and they talk about their mentors and how they leveled up, it was mostly men because it was a very male-driven industry, and some of their responses they would receive were, well, I leveled up when I hired my wife, right? So it became a passion of mine to help that market. But yes, David could come in and find a different target.
I'm glad to hear that.
Although I hear he has a lot on his plate.
Yes,
so.
yeah. Well, this isn't really a question, but more of a comment. I like that you have a niche. I like that you have a target audience for what you're doing, and you've identified a need, and you're going after it. So I think that's all great. And I'd double down on it. I think, but it's good to know for the scaling part of it, you could offer those other options.
I really thought Mervyn was going to steal my question, so I was about to cut him off, but, but he didn't.
Elbow the captain in the side.
Well, so you talk about scaling, and I love that you're identifying your passion for your target market, as well as thinking about what brings you energy and all of that. But as you talk about scaling and franchise and getting to the point of selling, what is the piece of your business that is apart from you? Because I find that you bring a lot of energy and passion and knowledge to this, but what is it that is transferable? What is it that's apart from you that you are looking to scale?
Sure. That's a really good question as well. So I guess this is why you guys do this, right?
They know a few things.
Yeah, good roles for all of you. So really, what I teach is transferable. So if I can teach it for someone to learn and utilize it, I can teach it for someone to learn and teach it, right? It's systems, and systems are the solution in this situation. And so all of that could be transferable to the right person, or the person who could find energy in the same, right? And it doesn't have to be for the female financial advisor, just somebody who could find energy in wanting to give back to that entrepreneur and that space, and just make sure that they stop wearing too many hats and they can all get back to living life. That's what we're here for, right? May as well enjoy it.
Have you evaluated your options from the perspective of the audience and figured out where is there the biggest opportunity from the demand that is coming in?
No. And how would you recommend going about that?
Well,
surveying clients?
looking at talking to franchise companies.
Okay.
And there's organizations out there where they help people that want to get into a franchise identify what is the best franchisee or franchise to buy into.
Sure.
So maybe, are people looking for this type of opportunity?
Okay.
Or even on the, the marketing VA side and just evaluating the market, because that is a very competitive market to
Sure,
get into
sure.
right now. But based on your current customer base, figuring out, is there truly demand there?
Okay, I love it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you as well. What is your client's biggest objection to using your services? Where do you think you might be getting tripped up with acquiring your clients?
Ooh, so truthfully, awareness as a whole. I think I spent my time in the wrong place for the first year of the business, not because I was defining my market at that time as well. And so now that I'm spending more time in the industry itself, at their associations, going to their conferences, supporting them as I can, it's building awareness around what it is that I do, because coaching is very, very important in that industry, but I'm not a typical coach, and I come at it from such a different angle. It's the messaging when I'm in that space to make sure they understand how different I am.
Okay.
Or
I
the
don't know if I
services
actually got
if
the right answer from you though
Okay.
on that. So, so let's say you're talking to somebody, you've already kind of got them interested, but then they want to use your service, or they're not sure about using your services.
I don't have a lot of no's.
Okay.
Once I get to that
So
conversation, I
you're
don't
doing
get a
a
lot.
good job of getting them and converting them. It's just maybe you need more help acquiring them. Is that
Getting to the point where we're having the conversation about one-on-one about acquiring me as a
okay? I got
service
you now. So
provider.
it's not really the securing them. It's making them aware of your services, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yep.
Fair enough.
So then what's worked that, what are the things that's worked and what are the things that
Sure.
have not worked that you've?
Excellent question. So not working is not asking, right? Like that doesn't work. The public workshops, I've taken a step back. I still do them because I get requests for them if somebody's not part of a team or an association that I'm working with. But I find they're people, those are your do-it-yourselfers. They want to come, they want to get that information, and they want to take it and run. And that's okay. I'm still willing to provide that. But from an efficiency standpoint, what's working is doing that same workshop on purpose specifically to a team, a sales team that hires me, because there's more interest then in the follow-up typically. Also, I do enjoy speaking. I speak in front of different groups, networking associations, and now working on getting on the floor in that industry. But that's also part of why I built a conference, which not only is it a way for me to help support that industry, but it is a good feeder for myself and the other speakers as well.
Okay, good. Any last questions?
With regards to your clients, what is your set time frame or program or service that people buy into, and does it differ from an individual versus team perspective? How much clarity do you have on
Sure.
that piece?
So there are a handful of programs. The workshop itself, right, that's one piece. I do a strategic planning session with people. It's kind of building out their ideal calendar and finding gaps. It's more for the do-it-yourselfer where it's a one and done. But I offer that because about 60% of the time they then hire me for more follow-up, right? The follow-up piece, we'll keep calling it that, the package, if you will, one-on-one is 12 weeks. Now, I'm very liberal with my time in the sense that if it's 12 weeks and it starts July 1 and it would normally end like the third week of September, and I'm sure my math is off there, I'm just making up dates, right? I would finish out the rest of the month with them, but
Okay, good question. So kind of to jump back to your original question for us, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you basically kind of want to grow this business, but then also make sure that it's scalable so that in, let's say, 10 years you can sell it.
Yes.
And so kind of what does it look like and how do you make it
yes,
scalable?
yep. Great recap.
Okay.
Can I ask one last question?
All right,
David?
I'll let
one
you have
last
this
question,
one.
please. Okay. I'm gonna ask. So you mentioned the people having fears around hiring and outsourcing that, and now you're talking about scaling. What is your fear with having someone else do this work, bring somebody else on to do this work with you, for you?
Okay, that was a good question.
That is a good question. We'll allow it. Oh, geez. What is my fear in having somebody else basically delegating the same work that I'm doing? I don't know if what's stopping me is the fear of that more than the fear of the fact that I think I could take it to a really grand size, and that itself is a little scary. If I had to think about delegating the work, it's just teaching it and hoping that somebody else could bring as much passion to it and do it efficiently. I guess that's a concern whenever you take intellectual property and pass it along, but that would be probably the best answer I have.
Okay,
Thanks.
good. All right, so let's kind of focus now on some advice for you and some directions that maybe you could go with this. So I don't know if anyone has anything they want to start with as far as thoughts.
I have a thought.
Okay.
I'm not hearing a very clear goal.
Okay.
And I think you have to get some clarity around your goal, and whether that's a dollar amount you want to sell it for, or like, this is something that I'm going to enjoy through the rest of my retirement. Something, just get really clear on that. And then you can reverse engineer that to help give you that path on how to move forward and achieve that goal.
Okay.
I loved your honesty with saying I'm perhaps fearful of how big it could be, right? How big it could become. And my encouragement to you is to lean into that fear and that lack of clarity. We talk about clarity for the plan and for the goals. That is crucial, but also leaning into your fear of what it could become, letting that come to fruition in your mind, as that may give you more clarity on what you could do now to pursue it. Because if your vision is big and vast and grand, but also overwhelming and way out there, it doesn't give a lot of clarity for what you do today,
right,
or who you look for to delegate to today.
Right.
So get really clear on that vision, work through those fears, work through all that discomfort, and then say, okay, what does that mean for me today? What's the first step that's leading towards that goal in alignment with that vision?
Fair enough. And then the next question is how, so that's a conversation offline, right?
I love it.
I do. We were talking about between the three of us earlier. We were talking about pruning,
Okay.
and I'm thinking about your business where those things that are not generating the revenue or that are not efficient for you, that you need to prune those things and lean in hard into what does generate.
Okay.
And that's working with teams. And so if working with teams is it, then that's how you're going to scale, because everything else is noise.
Sure.
Right? That other stuff becomes noise, and you're all right, annual retreat, that's great, let's do that. But if that workshop is, that's not doing it, it becomes noise, and it becomes difficult.
One more thing I'm doing, sure.
Just because I can be doing that, and there are probably another 5 things that you could be doing too, right?
Right.
But doesn't mean that that's the right thing for you to be doing.
But it's busy work at the end of the day.
Yep, so
Got it.
lean into what it is that's generating the revenue that could be scalable.
Okay,
Yeah, I like that.
fair.
So I'm coming at it from a little different perspective in that, you kind of have the situation where you have what you're doing now, but then you have where you're going.
Right.
And so what you're doing now is not necessarily scalable because it's all about you.
Right.
You're doing the one-on-one coaching, you're doing the seminar, and it's all built around you. So that's fine. When you start a business, you kind of almost have to do that, but you really got to get clear on where are you going. And so one of the things I want you to ask yourself is, what kind of things are you doing that can be made into systems or that can be easily transferred to other people, to grow it and really start to build that list. And it could be a lot of different things.
Sure.
It could be, I'm going to do, video series that, my coaches then, learn from, or that they play for their clients, or, it kind of sounds like you really enjoy the group, talking in front of larger
Sure.
groups and doing that, but maybe where you scale it is you train people on how to implement what you talk about, like you had said. So how do you create a training program for them? And because if you're busy going around the country and talking to everybody, and getting them all fired up, well, you don't have the capacity, you don't have the bandwidth to help
service
each one of them one-on-one.
Right.
So that might be where you could have that distinction.
Well, and truthfully, it's kind of like this today. When you put a group of minds together, many hands make light work. Your brains work off of each other, right? You may have a question Ariel had a question before, you're like, that was a great question. You didn't think of it, but we all needed to talk about that, or at least I did, right? So that's why the group format is amazing, and that's why I like the team trainings. People feed off one another, and the energy is just so much greater. And I love the one-on-one, but I think you're right from an efficiency standpoint. Focusing.
Yeah, if it's built just around you, it'll never scale.
Right,
Because
right.
as soon as something happens to you,
Right.
it's gone. So you've got to be able to really start to think about what kind of things can I create and then pass on, to someone else that they could pick up, so that you can make this scalable. Because just right now, the way you're doing it, what you're doing isn't aligned with where you want to go.
Right, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. The systems themselves, that is transferable, and it is a process, and it is something that I could easily take from a one-on-one to a group training and simply just transfer my energy, right? Then it's teaching it to somebody else, and so if that's the way that I want to go, it's finding that next person that wants to maybe start shadowing, because I'll never break out of what you're talking about, it just being about me, until I take that next step.
I quoted you when you said, systems are the solution. I loved that phrase, partially because I'm a dork around alliteration. I love it.
TikTok.
TikTok, I love it. So the systems are the solution, that was your wording. And so as you continue to buy into that mindset, instead of Taren is the solution, systems are the solution, what are the systems that you find work and that are your own, that are TikTok's systems for solutions, that you can continue to think about how to transfer to groups, to teams, that you scale and teach.
Got it.
Did I just jump into the feedback portion? I did, didn't I?
No, we've been there.
Yeah.
Oh, we've been there. Thinking, analyzing, my head over here. Falling in love with alliteration again.
Is this why she's not the captain?
That's right.
I just think about the little. We're all talking, and Ariel's in her own little.
Choosing about alliteration. So.
Classic, yeah. I got really distracted by my love of alliteration.
There you go. Well, other advice for Taren? Anything else you guys can think of?
I think you know what you have to do, actually.
I do.
And you have to do some internal thinking on your own and really evaluate what is going to be the best fit for Taren going forward.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would say really think about, what does this look like, in 3 years, what does it look like? In 10 years, when you're selling it, really get kind of crystal clear. Take some time, and just reflect on it and start to write it down and then refine that a little bit. Because once you get the end game a little bit clearer, the parts and pieces will start to come together for you.
Yeah, Stephen Covey, right? Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, look at that end picture and then, kind of work it backwards and see, okay, how do I break it down into smaller pieces? And, because the problem is when you're thinking about a really big thing like that, it becomes overwhelming, right? And
right.
What's the saying they always say about eating an elephant? How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
That's right. So you've got to break it down into smaller pieces and chunks. You got to get to here first before you get to there.
Right.
And then, I'll steal Mervyn's line that maybe, even a coach sometimes needs a coach. So, you might need someone to help kind of guide you a little bit. And it's helpful to have other outside advice.
Agreed. Big fan. I believe that everybody should get a second set of eyes on what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for Taren?
One last thought that's popping up is, as you think about your systems that are solution, I would recommend branding your systems, the TikTok systems, because I find that there's not much new that we do, right? There's just our way of doing it.
Right.
So thinking about the branding for that so that it is intellectual property or it is something that is yours that you can then more confidently, less fearfully teach to someone that is yours that you're transferring.
Okay.
That may help with some of the fears of the delegation.
Okay, thank you.
And along those lines, then when we were talking about branding, the TikTok, then you might also want to think about whether it's a trademark or patent, right? So that it's not easily stolen from you either.
Right.
As you're branding it, someone can go, it's a great idea.
Yes.
Yeah, it's exactly right. That happens all the time in the coaching world where somebody learns something from someone and then all of a sudden someone else is doing it. So yeah, I think Mervyn's spot on with that, where you as you create an intellectual property, make sure that you're protecting it and that,
Excellent point. It's funny, when I started this in 2019, I did trademark the name, the workshop, and the material is written and copywritten, but I did that in the state of Wisconsin. I didn't at the time see it growing beyond that, so now I think going to the federal trademark is probably wise. Thank you.
Scaling.
Never thought of it, right? Go back to the beginning sometime too.
That's right. Okay, so I think we threw a lot of different things at you. What do you think was your biggest takeaway from what we gave you?
Begin with the end in mind. Thank you. I really do think that I was focused too much on what is the next step I take, and I couldn't figure that out because I wasn't looking far enough ahead. So I agree wholeheartedly. I need to gain clarity there, and the next step will come. I would also say, interestingly, pruning I teach people to do it all the time, right? Marketing is math. If it's working, multiply it. If it's not working, get rid of it, right? Delete it, just period. And so I have to listen to my own words. But while I was doing that, I realized that my social media marketing needs to be revamped. And my team is really strong. They do a great job, but it's not focused to my market, right? I need to be speaking to them directly. So yeah, a lot of clarity given to me today, guys. Thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Taren, for coming on to YG Workshop. I hope it was super informative and helpful for you.
It has been.
I really look forward to seeing kind of what you do with this in the future.
Thank you. I hope I show you big things.
We'd love to see that, right? All right, well, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks to Taren for joining us today on YG Workshop, presented by First Federal Bank and sponsored by Circle Electric and Health Payment System. Do you know an entrepreneur that would like to be a guest on our show? Have them visit younggutsmovement.com to apply, and make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow our podcast so you don't miss a single episode of YG TV. I'm your host, David Belman, president of Belman Homes. Thanks to our panel, Lori, Ariel, and Mervyn, and our guest, Taren Sartler. See you next time.